What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to a not so casual nerd. I mean, we're going to be talking about gaming, but this is a podcast today. We're spilling the tea, as the kids would say, for some gaming news and all that fun stuff. And today I have with me my friend Tony. Tony, welcome to the podcast. I hope you're having a good one.
Well, I'm doing it fantastic. I'm still kind of miffed by the whole spilling the tea thing. Is this like something new? That's why I started like, wait, spilling the tea? What is that? Anyway, I'm getting off track. Thank you for having me on. We started communicating earlier this week and stuff about the main topic and kind of hit it off. So that's always a good thing. So yeah, tonight it's gonna get real.
It's going to get real. We're going to call out the trolls, and all of you fanboys really better watch your asses, okay? Because I've had an experience over this past week with everybody telling me about opinions, and I think this is a perfect place to start okay, let me clarify. Tony is also a journalist, more so in the tech industry. I'm in the gaming industry, but he does also gaming reviews. So what I want to ask is, that way people get to know you more, is how long have you been in this industry working as a journalist?
Yeah, it's wild. Like literally, because we're recording this in May, in early June, it's going to be 10 years.
Damn.
I just really internalized that like earlier this week. I'm like, oh crap, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like I'm talking about like, as on sites and everything, I have been doing this for 12 years, really. Starting in the blogging and all that. I think I told you about it. It's like, because this is my path, right? I started blogging, that worked out pretty well. And then one of the sites I had been checking out at the time was called the Bitbag. The founder, Torrance Davis, he was closing up shop, but he was starting a new site. So he's like, hey, I'm looking for writers. I'm like, I got all this stuff I've been writing. Let me submit it. I sent it to him, and he actually got mad at me because he was like, because he knew I was a fan. He's like, why didn't you send me this stuff earlier? I would have hired you, because he liked my work. And ever since then, so that was 2012, all the way till now, I've been doing journalism. And even though, like, at the moment I am, and I hope to be for many, many, many more years, because tech is very technical.
Yeah.
Like now that I do gaming stuff, it's kind of like, I call it weight training, like Goku in the chamber. He's like 100 times strength and stuff. That's me doing my regular like tech journalism stuff. And I do gaming. It's like, hey, I just left the thing. I'm on Planet Namek right now. This is great. But yeah, 10 years, wild ride.
It's amazing. Yeah, it makes my from what 18, 19, 21, 22, 4 years in gaming journalism look silly.
Here's the thing, right?
That's
I know this is your show, but I want to ask about you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you all about? Like, where did you come from? Like, where did it all start for you?
Well, it started with me basically graduating from college, not really wanting to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist because I have a degree in psychology. And I graduated from St. Francis University, hyped to them. And they ended up telling me, well, you'd have to go for your master's. And I was like, thinking to myself, I've incurred like $60,000 of debt from this degree. Granted, it was amazing, but it wasn't really like what I wanted to do because of the politics I was getting into it with psychology. Unfortunately, it wasn't about taking care of the person anymore. It was more about the money that you can make from the person. And I didn't jive with that. So instead I decided, okay, let me try to do YouTube again. I tried it in 2011, didn't really work, very self-conscious human being, and I ended up loving it. I played Five Nights at Freddy's 4 for the first time and realized that I really enjoyed doing it. And I have actually to thank Markiplier, because he's the reason why I started doing all of this. I thought, listen, if he can be a crazy ass and a doofball and everything, so can I. So that's where it all really started. And then I realized when one of my friends was looking for writers for his freelance weblog that he was doing back in 2018, when I was already like, almost 3 years into it. And he was like, hey, do you want to write for the website? And I was like, I never tried doing gaming journalism before. So yeah, let's try it. Let's see. And he's like, you have all these walkthroughs on your channel. Do you want to do a review about some of them? I started doing a review on the original Resident Evil, on the Evil Within, Outlast, all the classic horror games. I ended up loving writing for journalism so much. Like putting my own thought and sarcastic attitude into that. I was like, this is so cool. This is amazing. And once he shut his website down, I was like, do you mind if I take the articles that I that I wrote for you, and I put them on my own blog. And now we're almost to 100 articles that I've so far written, and it's gone amazingly well. Like, this is only the start of the journey, but it's gone amazingly well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's kind of cool, like, hearing how you started, because a little similar to the way I started, because my friend Emilio Lopez, who's my co-host on my podcast Throwdown, I'm 42 years old right now. We're both 42. We've been friends since we were 13. This is like lifelong friendship, right? And we've literally been talking every single day for like 30 something years.
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
so in the I would say mid 2000s, right? That's when like live journals and all this other stuff really started blowing up. And he was like, "Yo, Tony, you play so many games, you beat them so fast. Why don't you write about them?" I'm like, "That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Like, writing on the internet? Who does that? This is dumb. I'm not doing that. I'm going to be some a-hole on the internet. No, I'm not doing that." He kept persisting, but I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, right? And then in like late 2010, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to start a gaming blog. You want to join me?" I'm like, maybe I won't look as stupid if I do it with another person, right? But then, like you, I started writing it. I'm like, "Whoa, I kind of like this. This is cool."
Yeah.
Because I had already liked writing, so I enjoyed the process of like structuring things and putting it all together.
Yeah,
I actually enjoy editing more than I do writing, because I feel like writing is just like taking a block of like clay, right, and setting it down and getting the basic shape of, like, for a human, for example. That's the writing. Editing is when you really make it into an actual figure with definition and all that. That's when it all comes together for me.
You see, that's me with editing videos. Whenever I have to go in and re-edit my writing, I cringe. I look at my grammar sometimes and I'm just like, "Oh, why did I have to put that there? Why was there a comma misplaced? Stop, no."
Just so you know, that doesn't go away. I've been doing this for 10 years. It does not go away. So just be prepared. No. And also, this is just general writing advice. Your first draft, let it suck, because it's going to suck.
Oh, yeah.
First draft, going to be trashed. It's okay. You have a chance to fix it. But I enjoy it. Like, even now, the big thing, and you kind of straddle both worlds, which is very interesting to me. Journalism and YouTube, which is, the big thing. People ask me about that all the time. So I do a gaming podcast twice a week, and obviously I do it, live in front of people and stuff. But I honestly don't have aspirations to be a streamer or a content creator. That's not. I realize I kind of am technically, but that's not what I want. I enjoy writing. I want to be known as a writer. And I'll admit this, it kind of pains me that writing is the thing I'm least known for. Right?
Same. It's so strange. It's like people know my YouTube videos, but they're like, "Oh, wait, you also have article versions of your reviews." I'm like, "Yes, Karen. That's my whole purpose here. That's my journey. It's what I live for."
It's insane. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. And, I told you this off air. I'll say it now. Like, I'm really glad you invited me on, because it gives me a chance to, help you out as well, because I had people helping me out get to where I am. So I honestly believe it's my duty to help people who really want it, right? Not just anybody. Like, I could tell the passion, you have it, and I want to, like, foster that however I can.
That really means a lot, because it's like, you always try to, it's weird to say, and it's kind of cringy to say, but, I always think, man, if someone would just, like, give me a chance to show them what I got in this industry, then I know I could blossom. And that's the thing of where, like, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of content creators who are, and I'm going to say this, so sorry if anybody gets offended, but, people who are complete assholes, like Logan Paul, like a lot of these people will get up on a platform, do their asshole shtick, and they'll be, paraded around for it. Whereas people who are genuine and do their craft in a wholehearted way get less, praised more so than someone who's doing something cringy.
I find that interesting, because that's something I talk about not often in the early days of my podcast, and I would just say as kind of a joke, but it's also kind of serious. I was like, if we were like those other gaming podcasts that were just, full of drama and like, fighting and all that, like, we'd be a lot bigger. But that's not what I want to do, and I want to give you the chance to give back as well, because you'll get to that point too, where you'll be where you
I
not
hope
where you want
so.
to be because you're never going to reach that goal. I'm probably, you know what I'm saying, like mentally, like
Yeah.
I realize like for me, I am where a lot of people want to be, but I'm like, yo, I'm trying to get ahead, bro.
There's always
Um,
more that you want to reach for
yeah,
and everything. That's the thing. Because I feel like that's also, with, I feel like both you and I being in New York too,
yeah,
they kind of foster that mentality as well
yes,
of where you have to go bigger, better, stronger, faster, like all that kind of stuff. And it kind of like also sets you up to not take any shit from anybody as
yeah,
well. Because, I mean, you and I both know the amount of shit we have to take from people on a
yeah,
daily basis. So, if we want, we can switch into talking about that because I feel
yeah.
like
We can do that.
it's very interesting to say the least. Like, I was debating in my head, and this is sometimes something I have to remind myself of. People are here to see gaming. They're not necessarily here for me to create a pity party around what is going on drama wise in the comment section of my videos.
Yeah,
And I don't blame anybody who spreads, like comments and stuff like that on their Twitter. They're trying to make people aware of the crap that YouTubers and journalists have to deal with. But sometimes, and I was battling because there was a comment that I shared with you, and people can still see it on my YouTube channel. It's up for debate there. But when I said that with you, I was really debating within myself and trying very hard not to share it on Twitter and I never did because I felt,
good.
you know what, so many people are going to be like, why, what's the point of this? And they're right. What is the point of sharing negativity on Twitter a lot of the time?
Yeah,
You
and
know?
also, if you were to do that, you would be giving that person exactly what they want. They know that
Exactly.
they got to you so much that you had to post it out there. So it's a good thing
Hmm.
you didn't do that. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I've messed up. I've done. Like people have left some comments about me or whatever, and I've just retweeted because I knew I got a lot of
Hmm.
followers. That like I knew what would happen afterwards. But then I was like, that's kind of messed up. That's not good to do that sort of stuff. Because I'm feeding into it, or so it's good. I'm very very proud of you for not doing that, and you did it the right way. Because what I do now, what you just did, if something's really upsetting me, just share it with some friends and talk about it. You don't need to do it
Exactly.
publicly.
So I think it'll be interesting to tell people that, hey, we don't make millions of dollars, first of all. We don't make millions of dollars. We're not living in mansions, diving in like, Donald Duck right into the money. And we're not really given any of the copies of the games, unless it's an indie studio that gives us, a copy through Keymailer or something like that. We're not given AAA titles either. So, what are your thoughts on this whole misconception behind what we do?
Yeah. Well, with that last part, like we don't get physical games if that's what you mean, but
Mhm.
like we do get the AAA stuff. But here's the thing, right? And I'm glad you bring this up, right? Because like I just full disclosure, I don't buy many games. I don't have to because I
Mhm.
get most of the games I want. Because I'm a AAA guy. That's what I like.
Mhm.
But it there's not free because it's not like here you go, have a good day. No, I got to write
Yeah.
about it. I got to deconstruct it when I'm playing it. I got to rush through it or whatever. That's
Yeah.
the thing people don't understand. It's like when you get a game, when a company gives you a game, you're not playing it the way a normal person plays it, right?
No. No.
For example, like one of the last big games I played was Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Oh,
Got,
nice.
got the code and all that, and I beat it in about 40 hours, 2 weekends, like just
Okay.
rushing through it, taking mental notes and all that. But obviously, if I were to play it normally, actually, let's use this example. So I had to review that game, right? I had to
Mhm. rush
rush through it, get to meet the embargo. Embargo very important. Got to meet that embargo, right?
Mhm.
Then I got offered Elden Ring. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm good.
nice.
I want to actually enjoy that. And
Mhm.
it took me 2 months to beat, because
Oh,
it's a different
wow.
mentality. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
remember this is kind of a quick aside. Um, with Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm sure, right?
Nice.
Um,
That game is just amazing. That was my first time ever playing a Red Dead Redemption game, and I fell in love with it.
yeah, I love it. So we got the code. This was for Geek.com. We got the code a day
Mhm.
before the game came out, right?
Wow.
And my editor was the one that received the code, and I was kind of looking forward to reviewing it. Like, all right, whatever, that's cool. But then the next day, Rockstar, because I know somebody there, they shipped me the game, physical copy,
Oh,
T-shirt, and all this
nice.
other stuff. It's like, hey Tony, here's blah 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 blah. I'm like, I don't have to review this. I can just play for fun. You know, again, because it's a different thing. So people,
Yeah,
I know people are not going to be sympathetic to that or whatever, but when you get a game for review, it's a different thing. I remember when
yeah,
I
it
got
is.
God of War right for PS4. I had to review that. I rushed through it for in a weekend, right? You know,
Mhm.
hardcore. And then when I finished it and I wrote my review, I'm like, okay, now I can play it for fun.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's not exactly fun. So that's something
Yeah,
that people don't understand. But they're like, oh, you get free shit, and that's it. You know, it's like
yeah,
that's all. It's like it's not free. There's conditions. You know,
there
you don't
is.
just get a
Yeah,
game. I've never like I get codes all the time. I
yeah.
don't download them unless I'm going to review them. You
Same.
know.
Yeah. There,
So yes, yeah, that
there's always that thing of where you also have to jive with the game too. Like I feel
yeah
as if I'm not going to just play any game. Like I get codes all the time in my email. This isn't to brag, but it's just a fact of where like once you get
yeah.
more known in the industry, you are going to get indie studios, different people saying, "Hey, sign up now and you get free coins." I'm like, I don't want free coins.
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know?
no, exactly. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like if you have to do like 4 game reviews back to back,
Hmm.
you got to churn them out real fast. That's the other thing. And I've caught heat
Yeah.
about this many times where like like oh you don't finish all your games. Of course I can't beat a 100-hour RPG in a week. That's impossible.
Yeah,
And
it
if I have
is.
like not only and here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand like because some people ask me like oh do you play games during your work hours? I can't do that during my work hours. So I'm busy writing during my work
Yep.
hours. Most journalists, even if they're full on gaming journalists, they play games on their off hours. They're busy writing during that day, nine to
Exactly.
five writing. So and it's kind of ironic. As soon as I started becoming a game journalist, I started playing less games because I had less time. I had to write about games. I know that
Oh
the
yeah.
hierarchy's there or whatever,
Yeah.
but again, people don't seem to understand it. But like you said, they kind of just see us as like content machines to just push this stuff out. It's like
Yeah.
no, we're humans. We got to balance this stuff with life. And like you said,
Yeah.
there's times where I've had to review some games where I'm like, I don't want to play this. This game is either not
Hmm.
good or not gelling with me, but I still had to give it a fair shot. And
Yeah.
thankfully, I did get to a point where you could give me any kind of game. I could give it a good review. Even something stupid like Angry Birds, I could give you a full on
Oh,
review of
Angry
that, no
Birds.
problem. You know,
Yeah, that's how I
but
felt when I was reviewing Fallout 3. I
yeah,
really, oh god, if I bring this up, I know people are going to give it shit for me because I get shit for the review I did on it all the time.
yeah,
I hated the game. Absolutely detest Fallout 3.
yeah,
Whenever I wrote a review on it, there were people who came back to me a year later and was like, "Holy shit, you were right." I was like,
yeah.
"Well, I'll be damned, son of a nutcracker." you know?
That's funny.
And when people don't realize that you don't always have to give a positive review. So, it's one of those ideals of where there's such a mixture of opinions that can go on because everybody who is in the journalism space is different and has different mindsets for this. So if you want someone who is going to be more positive with a review, then go with that. But if you want someone who's going to be honest with a review, you gotta stick through the honesty and understand that we can't get it all done in a matter of time, and some of the game we don't play because of that. And like it's weird because it's like I play every single game and I finish it, ones that I review, but that's only
Yeah,
because I'm not attached to a company. I'm more freelance for myself, and that's the
yeah,
only benefit I can say for that. Because I know a lot of people like yourself who work at companies, you don't have the freedom in order to finish an entire game and then review it.
yeah. Thankfully, I because since I'm not officially a gaming journalist anymore, I'm more strategic with what I pick,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I know, okay, don't pick the 100-hour JRPG. You're not going to finish that. So I'm doing that. But yeah, right. It's like
Mm-hmm.
back when I did it full time, it was just impossible, especially if I had
Yeah.
any deadlines and all that. It's kind of funny. I call this act dumpster diving, right? When people go through your old tweets or your old
Oh my
posts to
god.
try to get you, right? So somebody dug up an old tweet from my blogging days where I had written about how you should finish your games, right? You're like, oh, you're saying this. How come you're saying the opposite? I'm like, yeah, because I was ignorant back then, bro. I wasn't in the industry. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Me implying you don't know what the hell you're talking about either.
Yeah.
But when the reality hits, when you got to hit those embargoes, you got to do it. Don't get me wrong. I the games I've reviewed, I've probably beaten 90% of them, and I went back to finish them anyway if
Yeah.
they were good. The terrible games, I don't go back. I'm like, forget
Yeah.
about it. But I've gone back, and there's never been an instance where I finish a game. I'm like, damn, I was wrong. here's the thing, and is ironically, if I learned this in my blogging days, right? You could learn everything you can about any given game in about 5 or 6 hours. Like all
That's
the
true.
basic
Yeah.
stuff is there. All the other stuff is kind of just because remember games have a
Yeah.
cycle, right?
It's repetitive. Yeah.
There's a loop. Every game has a loop. Once you figure out what that loop is, you're kind of good to go. And even with narrative driven games, obviously if the game's 10 hours long, finish the game. You
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
but even then, even then, I will not give story details beyond the first act. I
Oh,
basically
interesting.
tell you whatever you see in the trailer. I purposely do not go beyond the I will
Oh.
not yeah I will not tell you how the ending is. I will not none of that because I don't want to spoil anything. You know,
I'm
so
the
it's like
complete opposite.
yeah I don't spoil unless it's a spoiler review. In general,
Yeah.
I don't do that. Even with game mechanics, I give you a general overlay because I used to be
Yeah.
that guy where I would tell you what the buttons did and stuff. That's stupid. That's a waste of
Hmm.
time. You don't want to do that.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, I became a better journalist because of time restraints, right? Because when I
Interesting.
yeah, and I'll explain this. When I first started, on the site, it was called ST if you and play. Yes, it meant exactly what you think it means, right? And ironically enough, that name was inspired because
Mhm.
our founder felt that gamers were spending too much time on Twitter talking shit than actually playing games. Ironic how
Yeah.
nothing has changed in 10 years,
Nothing. Not at
you
all.
know.
No.
So
I,
yeah, in the early days, we weren't a big site, so I would have time when I get a game, and most of those games I actually bought myself,
mhm.
play it to completion, take my time with it, and write it as long as I want, like go over it and polish it to a sheen,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? So, um, it got to a point when I started getting more games, I was like, oh, I can't edit these as much as I want, right? So
Mhm.
I would
Okay.
maybe edit something maybe 2 or 3 times, right? Get it out there, and people are like, oh man, this review is great. This is awesome. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's interesting. What changed? There is,
Hmm.
oh, I had edited my previous reviews so much, I sucked the life out of them.
Oh,
It became
wow.
too perfect. So when I just wrote, people go, "Oh, this sounds like you wrote this, Tony." I'm like, "Oh, I can't over edit."
Yeah.
So that's kind of a tip right there as well. Try not to over edit yourself, because you're not going to sound like yourself.
That's true. That's actually something I tell my clients, but with video editing,
Yeah,
because if they're ever going to edit themselves, number one, don't put fireworks, please, please, for the love of God, no explosions and fireworks. You just look like it. Oh my God, it covers up everything, and it's like it covers up for what you might be lacking. I'll get into that later, but
yeah,
whenever you're going into video editing, go in with your personality and let the video that you're crafting speak for itself. I promise you, you are more talented than you think you actually are. And it's the same
yeah.
goes for writing. You have a voice with writing. You just have to let that sucker out there. So.
Yeah, and the first review that it finally clicked for me, and I had already done a
Mhm.
bunch of reviews already, but it was Bioshock Infinite. That's when it really clicked. It was two things.
Ooh.
Not only
Okay.
did I have a time restraint, but I was like, with a game like this, I need to change my format. I need to change things up,
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, oh, I like reviewing games like this, and I kept on doing that, where it's basically just me talking about the game as I would to another person, more formal, obviously, but
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed that. And even now, I don't because even in the beginning, and that's the other thing I got rid of. When I used to play games, I used to take notes and stuff, and I would make sure every single note I took would be in my review. I don't take notes. I stopped doing that like
I take notes
8 years
for every
ago.
single
I
game that
just
I
wing
do.
it. I just wing it because it comes out better.
What I
It
find
just comes out
funny
better.
about this, actually, hold on, I think this is actually really, really funny that you say this, because every time that I sit down and I do a review, I always take in-depth notes and I attach it to the
Yeah.
back of the review so I know
Wow.
which one. Like, literally, I
Yeah.
will spend about an hour each gaming session that I do, and I'll, like, be there being like, oh, the psychology notes for this. Oh, the personality notes for this character.
Yeah. So do you like because we're writers, so we got to talk about craft, obviously. Like, so do you like outline like your reviews and all that beforehand?
Oh,
It
yeah.
seems like you do.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yep.
I don't outline at all. It's all off the cuff.
Yeah,
All off the cuff,
for
and then I bring it together later.
my Dark Souls 3 review that I did, there was a power outage that happened, so I couldn't post the first part
Okay.
of the review that I did on Patreon. and it gave me time to sit down, and I literally wrote out the entire review on paper, and I typed it all out and polished it up
Wow.
when I wrote it out on my Word document. For me, writing, and this is just me, I know not everybody is like this, but for me, writing by hand, it's so cathartic. It's so like it gets my thoughts more so out there. That's how I originally started doing writing. So whenever I write it that way, it's easier for me to get my thoughts out and then transfer it over to Word. I'm just old, apparently. So
Yeah, that's interesting because like I'm older than you are, and I'm the opposite. I hate writing a check. I'm like, I don't like this is so clumsy. Why am I doing this? You know, like when they invented like e-signatures, I'm like, thank you. I hate writing. Like I know I'm a writer. I hate writing. I cannot stand it. You know, like and like even like manual typewriters. Ugh, no. Like I can't edit this shit. Like I can't go back and like put the words correctly and stuff. Oh man, so again, this is kind of fun for me just hearing the way you do stuff. I wing it. I don't think about any of this stuff. But here's the interesting thing with tech. I don't outline, but I kind of do because I have pre-selected sections. I need to hit price, specs, display. So all that stuff there. But when it comes to gaming, nah, I don't bother with that.
My first tech review I ever did was on the Switch Lite that I got with the combination game that you could get with Luigi's Mansion 3. I had never played a Luigi game before that.
Yeah.
Hold your applause. I know. Okay, shut up.
I never have either, so don't worry about it. I don't really Nintendo like that. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because I never tried to go for a tech review because so many people were like, "Oh, we need more females in the tech space," and I was like, "There's Justine," and I really had to think for another one. Really isn't a lot of females in the tech space, honestly. And I sat down to write it, and it was so different than what I was normally used to with writing a game because you can, let's be real, with a game, you are bullshitting some of the time because your mind fills in the gaps for some of the creative things that you can do, right? But when it's a tech review, it's also specific, and you have to hit so many different points. What is the output? What are you looking at as far as resolution? Who can use this? What systems require what? So when I was writing it, I found myself enjoying the technical stuff so much and explaining how it would benefit what streamer, what YouTubers, like what kind of person would be able to benefit from this. And it was really, really cool to be able to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one thing I like about tech because like with games, going back to what we were just saying, it is subjective, right? It's one person's opinion. With tech, it's like, no, this laptop is objectively better than this laptop.
Exactly.
Like if you like it more, if you like the weaker one more, sure, but the other one's technically better. There's no debate there. So I I personally like that kind of like black and whiteness of it, right? But even with game reviews, obviously it's all subjective. So it's a different space that you got to kind of occupy. Like with tech reviews, I actually write the intro and outro last. I do this dead last. I don't need a theme. It's just a tech review. So I literally start with just the body of it, and then I add the beginning and end at the end. I can't do that with a game. I need to know what I'm getting into. Like obviously I've written thousands of these, but I still need to know what is my focus here, and then we go on from there.
You know what's funny? I write my title first before anything.
Interesting.
I write my title first, and then I write the first header of the paragraph, and then I continue on from there. And judging by my notes, that's how I go from there. Because within the first hour of any gameplay, I already know the theme and how I'm going to title the article because of what it gives off and the vibe that it lets out. Like Tormented Souls, it is an homage to the past. It is something of where you look at it and you see Silent Hill and Resident Evil 1 Remake. I could just hear the save room music already. So
yeah. Titles. I don't have to do them, but I always leave those last because I base them off of how my review came out. Like, okay, this is the title for it. Even though if it was up to me, I wouldn't have titles at all. But you kind of need them for SEO or whatever, and they're catchy, so I get that. But we probably should go back on topic. We just went completely off, but people will like this. This happens on my podcast all the time, where we're talking about something, we just veer off, but we don't like that because it's real, it's honest.
It is, yeah.
But I know the reason we kind of came together is because earlier this week, unfortunately, and I'm gonna avoid names. I think you would probably agree with me on that.
Yeah.
A certain Xbox ambassador was attacked
Yeah.
viciously, in my opinion. And I by the way, very good friends with Paris Lilly from Gamertag Radio. He's a
Mhm.
very big person in history, and he coined this. All of us caught stray bullets off of that, you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because we obviously didn't like what was going on being done to this person, so we
Mhm.
kind of not exactly defended, but we spoke out against it.
Oh yeah.
Then we caught flack from other people and stuff, and that's where all these
Yeah.
like horrible comments and stuff
Oh, it was
came to
insane.
came to light. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
So,
absolutely
what's your
insane.
take on all this? I guess you could speak about it now in this platform.
So it was interesting. I had never met the person who I was, defending, but I knew that, I could just tell, she's, the person's a decent human being. She never did anything wrong. And I've only ever, like, really heard of what, her part was as an ambassador because I see it in the people who she, impacted. So
Yeah.
by that already, you can tell that it's a good human being, right? And the thing is that I commented under someone's post, right? And I got flack. Like, I didn't comment back for like hours because I was like, I think it was until the very next day actually, because I was like, okay, do I really want to entertain this jerk right now who's commenting back to me? And you know who it is. I sent you actually the comment
Yeah.
of who it was. And I commented back and I honestly, like, intellectually tried to reason with the person. But if you look at his YouTube and you look at all of this stuff that he puts out, it's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Not even going to censor that. Honestly, it's complete bullshit. Because if you're going to spend your time not even constructively critiquing someone, because, and I posted a tweet about this, constructively critiquing someone and giving someone hate are completely different things.
No.
So when you constructively critique someone, you're then giving room for yourself to be wrong and yourself to have like more of an open view of what the conversation has possibilities to be. When you're hating someone, you just think that you're right and that's it, and no one can come into your brain in order to entertain any other ideas. So when I was going into it, I genuinely wanted to have a conversation, but people just kept coming in saying, "Oh, you're being a hater. You're being this. You're being that. Oh, it's just another Xbox." Like another person told me, "Do you even play video games?"
Wow. Of course, they had
I
to
was
say
like,
that.
"Bro, I'm a journalist. Like, of course I play video games like for hours every single day, nonstop for articles that I write." And there was another person who was like, "When did you start gaming?" And then at this point, they're being interrogating me
What?
all over the
I
place.
hate that type of nonsense. Like they have to like verify you or something,
Yeah, and it
And,
also,
and
yeah,
obviously it's always women. I get that shit. It's
it
always women.
was about to say
It's
like,
crazy.
and the person who got attacked, I feel so bad for them because it's like nobody deserves that. It's like if you're there for the community, you're there for the community. You don't really have to play a lot of the games in order to experience a really great community. That's why I love personally being an Xbox ambassador because I get to see a community that is there for one another. And they actually put these people in their place by banning their accounts too, which I'm very
Yeah.
happy about. So, but the end result of it was that I was going back and forth with these people, and I was intellectually trying to open their minds. And I realized, you know what, Ariel, you're not going to be able to get anywhere with this. You're being too wholesome right now. It's not a vibe. So I just ended off the conversation. I blocked who I needed to block, and I moved on.
There you go. Yeah. I mean,
So,
because you said you've been doing this for about 4 years now, so you're
mm-hmm,
still learning. Yeah. I would have not even bothered, but that's off of years of experience. 4 years
mm-hmm,
into this, I would have done the same thing you were doing. So,
yeah,
it's just how it is because you do try to change their minds, but and as you already know, a lot of these guys they don't really want to like get into a civil debate. They just want to
right.
hate on you
And that's
because
the
of
thing.
what you
Yeah.
are and what you represent. And this is still on topic. I was talking to one of my colleagues about it,
Mm-hmm.
and this is all public. It's on Twitter. His name is Marshall Onroff. Great journalist, really
Oh,
good
I've
stuff.
heard of him. Yeah,
Not only is he a great journalist, but he's also like just a good person. I really
yeah.
enjoy talking to him and stuff. He also is Jewish too. So it's kind of cool hearing him tell stories and stuff. It's not, I'm a New Yorker, so like Jewish friends everywhere, obviously. So there was just a
Nice.
natural fit. But him and I were having a conversation publicly about this stuff. How there was some pundit on Fox News talking about how like, oh, you journalists make all this money, they're rich, they're the elite, and this goes back to a conversation we had in the office a while ago about how because people were saying were hating on him for whatever reason, whatever
Mm-hmm.
gaming journalist like opinion he had or whatever, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's just a regular opinion. And one of our other colleagues who was older, 57 years old, told him like, listen, because you have this platform, that automatically is going to bring hate on you,
Oh
no
yeah.
matter what, because in Marshall's eyes and in my eyes too, and I know yours too, we're just regular people. We're not.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I'm not saying we're not trying to downplay. There's nothing special about it. We're just regular people.
No.
But to them, since we have these platforms, they see us as like that. We think we're above them. Not that
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That they see it that way, so they don't like us because of that. And it sucks. So that's why I realize they just want to hate on you. Don't engage. Just block. And in some instances, some of my own tweets, I'll mute the thread because I'm like, I don't need to be dealing with this.
Yeah.
And this is why I've had to. I turned my notifications off years ago. I cannot.
Nice. I should probably do the same.
DMs, turn those off. Years ago, after here's the thing, I got tough skin. I don't care about this stuff. It doesn't affect me too much. But once you get 1 or 2 million death threats, not that many.
It's difficult.
A lot of death threats, I'm good. I don't think I need to be dealing with this right now. I'm not a soft person. I can handle this stuff. I don't need to be dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? It's even little bits still wear at you after a while.
It's funny because it's like I experienced my first death threats when I reviewed Fallout 3, and I had never experienced that before. I was borderline doxxed as well, for my opinion in the article, because I'm going to say this right now. I've said this in a podcast before, and I'm talking to the audience right now. If you feel the need to dox me or send me death threats or call me the K word, then you honestly need help, because I'm not about to be your psychologist. I may have a degree, but I don't have my master's yet, honey. So please, I'm not going to be your psychiatrist, not going to be your psychologist. So go find better help somewhere else. Not sponsored, but still, go find help somewhere else. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say. It's a little bit of a story. With that, I did say this in a podcast previous, but people have shorter attention spans for the most of the time, so they might not remember. I sound like such a bitch a lot of the time. I know, don't take it seriously. But whenever I first started playing Fallout 3, so excited. I was legit really just excited in general to play that game because I heard how good it was. I heard how much people loved it. And it won't give it a year. So I thought, how bad could this really be? Right? So I went in, and within like the first 20 minutes of playing, I did an entire playthrough on YouTube, so people know the bugs I had to deal with. They know my firsthand reaction to some of the things I saw, which I'm very happy that I captured my reaction to all of this. I experienced racism in the game. I experienced bugs in the game. I experienced a convoluted storyline that did not make sense. Let's go with the last point first, because I feel like this is very important to mention. When you're first starting out talking about, which by the way, spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't played Fallout 3, just in case.
Spoiler warning for a game that's 15 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just always like to say that because, it's like I don't ever want to be spoiled for any other... Spoiled? That's not a word. Spoiled for any other game.
That's a word now,
Spoiled. Get some spoiled milk up in here. But the latter of where it's talking about, oh, it's a nuclear holocaust. We have to protect. We have to defend. I'm like, okay, cool. And then at the very last minute of the game, it talks about the fight for clean water. Where did the two intersect here exactly? Okay, so you're looking at a nuclear holocaust, but then you're looking for the fight for clean water. Got it. Okay, cool. And then your character dies by radiation anyway, because you sacrifice yourself. I love that. I know there are other types of endings you can get, but that was the one that I got, and I thought that was very anticlimactic, to say the least. The racism part, which caught me off guard, which one of the things I saw when you go into a tunnel, when you're like about to get to the radio station, there was a poster that says, "Where will you be when the Holocaust comes?" It's like, what? What is this exactly? And for me, Holocaust means something completely different than it will for a lot of people who aren't.
Different connotations for you.
Yeah. So when I saw that, and it had, I had my reaction right on the screen for everybody. I was like, what exactly is happening here? And then another thing was the Chinese failsafe program. They mimicked the Chinese language. They basically went, they had a bunch of people who who looked Chinese, who were shooting around at a bunch of people. And I know a little bit of Mandarin from my childhood. So I know they weren't speaking accurate Mandarin at all whatsoever. They were just making fun of the language. The last thing, which I thought was most irritable, was the death of a black man in the game who was shot by a white gangster character who called him a knuckle dragger, which is a derogatory term for a black person. So those were the racist things, on top of the bugs. Like, I captured that for everyone to see, on top of the bugs, on top of the numerous control issues, compatibility issues. It should have never been for the Xbox One in the first place. So for anybody who's wondering and keeps asking me and why I won't say what my issues were with Fallout 3, there you go. That's why I don't like Fallout 3, even though I did do a review on it and a podcast, and I've said it several times. So, just to mention that.
Yeah, but it's just silly how, just because of that opinion, you get like death threats and all this other nonsense, right? And again, it goes back to civility, right? People don't have that anymore. For example, I'm the opposite. I think Fallout 3 is fantastic, right? Even though it made me not want to buy a Bethesda game for a while. Here's the thing. I loved that world, right? I loved the choices. I hated how buggy it was. I played it on PS3. It was brutal.
Oh, no.
Like, I consider that was one of the most horrifying games I played in this sense, because I didn't know when the game would crash. It could crash at any moment.
Exactly.
So I would walk like every 10 feet, save. So it was extremely buggy, but at the same time, I could have these two different opinions. The game is buggy as hell, but I love the world so much because it's this messed up 1950s version of how they thought the world would be, and all that racism stuff you brought up, that's messed up, but that's kind of how the 50s were.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I'm like, yeah, so I get that. The Chinese are all evil communists, all this other stuff. So I just loved it. I thought it was very imaginative, but I agree the bugs were horrible. The game was ugly looking. And
I will give credit where credit is due. It is the first time, back in 2009, when this game released, I feel like it was iconic for people because, A, it was the first time you could switch between first and third person.
Yeah.
That was unheard of then. And I was a junior in high school in 2009. So I was seeing that game through the lens of what my friends were witnessing, and they were like, oh, this is so cool, this is so amazing, and also it has so much potential. I feel like, and I'm saying this right now, I'm making a promise to you guys. If they end up making a remake of Fallout 3, I will play it and review it.
There you go. Maybe, you may feel different. By the way,
may feel different, yeah.
Feeling old. That 2009, I was your age right now.
Oh, you were 29?
Yeah, I was 29, yeah. My age is always simple. It's like whatever year it is, like that's what I am, But yeah, so again, it's just silly how, again, you give out your opinion on that, or I give my opinion on whatever, and we just get all this hate for it. And it goes to, and I'm glad you study psychology, so you are very aware of this, right? It's basically people, they fill whatever hole they have in their life with these products, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to phrase. It's not that I'm stumbling. I'm just trying to phrase it correctly, right?
Right. Exactly.
Basically, they don't have anything going on in their lives. They put all their self-worth, their investment into these products, right? So when you attack the product, you're not attacking just the product. You're attacking them. That's how they see it. They invest all of themselves into these things, and they just take it really personal because they don't have a lot going on in their lives, perhaps, because let's just be honest here. Despite how things are right now in the world, right, we generally have it pretty good, right?
Especially in the States, yeah.
In the West, especially, you're going to wake up in a home, you're going to have food, you're going to have money, you don't got to worry about anything. But humans need conflict. It's just ingrained in us. So where do we get conflict from? Social media. That's where it all comes from. So we generate these things. So it's a confluence of all these different like psychological aspects. You have people who don't really have anything going on in their lives, who are seeking something, who may find themselves in a product, and then other people who want attention, so they start saying all these crazy things, and it just creates this whole thing. And I know I'm going to be very hypocritical when I say this, because I would not have a job. I would not have known all the people I know right now. Without it,
social media.
social media was I was about to. It's been horrible for Western society. It really has.
It has.
And I'm saying
Yeah.
this, remember, I grew up at a time internet was not a thing.
Oh
We
yeah.
were not
Same.
this maladjusted,
Same.
right? But at the same time, when the internet first started, it
Yeah.
was just a bunch of nerds in chat rooms. It was cool,
God,
right?
yeah.
But
Like
as soon as you had regular people coming on, as soon as these came along, cell phones messed everything up. You know?
what was interesting was that I even remember when I was 10 years old, I didn't go on the internet. Like, I didn't even know there was, like, pretty much an internet back in 2003, 2002 until I was in high school. Like, when my freshman year of 2006, I was like, wait, that's where you go to do stuff? Because my dad's very tech savvy. You know, he was a web developer and he built computers and cameras and everything back in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So he knew a lot about stuff. Like he still, like for my parents' company, he developed the program for the company program that they would eventually use. So he taught me everything I know about like code, about this, about what I can do with Discord and stuff like that. So when all of this new tech was coming out and he was seeing all of this, he was like, he already knew, and he told me when I was like 15, I think I'll never forget, you're going to have a very hard time with this, especially since you're a woman, but it's also going to be the greatest gift to whatever it is you want to do with your life.
Interesting.
Because he knew that I wasn't going to take the traditional route and be, a secretary or, or a med student or anything like that. Even though I had plans to become a lawyer at one point, I switched to psychology because the human brain intrigued me more. Because everybody who's watching now, you dirty fuckers, you all have something there seething within, and I love it.
Yeah, no, that's good that you have that.
Yeah.
And even though you are younger than me, it's still the same kind of thing where like we're this generation. It's like they basically analog childhood and digital adulthood on the cusp of it. Like we're not
Exactly.
like not your dad obviously because he was on top of it. But generally speaking, a lot of people's parents from my generation, they don't even know how to program a VCR. Like they don't know none of this stuff, right? Every single new piece of tech that's come out has not, because I wonder, like, am I going to become like my mom who doesn't know? No, it's not going to happen because I saw the beginnings of it. Every single new piece of technology that's come out has never confused me. Like, oh, I understand the basic principles. The only time I question myself, and it's funny because you did a video on this and I loved it, right? I was like, with NFTs, I'm like, am I old? Am I not getting it? And I was like, no, Tony, it's just because of the grit, you know? Like, because I understand the basic technology behind NFTs.
Yeah.
I'm just against it because of what people are doing with the technology.
And also the environmental impact as well that it makes.
Yeah, that is the other thing. But again, the whole psychology thing, it plays up into the whole get rich quick, gimme. It basically feeds on the innate human greed that's there. And I can't stand that stuff. Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with the technology stuff, and I understand how it works. I get it, but at the same time, I don't like it. It also is like, dude, really, you have this digital code that no one else can. Get out of here with that bullshit.
It's crazy to me because it's like, it's like, okay, yeah, you just gave me an upgraded skin for Call of Duty. Thanks, bro.
It's cool. It's insane. But yeah, anyways, but my quick thoughts on that whole situation that happened. Yeah, because like you said, and I actually do know her. We DM'd and stuff, right?
Okay.
I knew the kind of person she was, and that's what upset me the most. The fact that it was someone so sweet, so for lack of a better term, so kind of innocent, getting all that, and you could tell this was not the first time. This was the first time that ever happened to her. So it was doubly upsetting, right? Like, because we've seen some people get it, and I hate to say this, you're like, okay, you kind of deserved it. Bro.
Yeah, you were kind of a dick,
Yeah, like you kind of deserved it. I don't feel bad about it. But for her, it's like, yo, so I spoke my mind, and obviously they came after your boy, but I don't care, whatever. Block, whatever. We're done with that.
But
honestly, it does suck that. And in my case specifically, and I do want your take on this. In my case specifically, and I don't know how to say this. Like, it's not that it makes me feel bad, but there is a part of me that's bothered by the fact that to some people, I am nothing but a quote unquote blue check mark. Like all my humanity, my existence, everything's just truncated into you're this.
You're just a little
you for it,
authentication.
I remember this happened like last year, I believe. Something happened on Twitter, and all the blue checkmark people were not able to post anything. Right? Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but it was like a
No,
Sunday
I
night,
didn't.
and everyone who was verified, right, was not able to post. They could go on Twitter and look at it, what unable to post. The celebrations that were going on
Oh
made me
God.
sick. I'm like, wow, they really hate me. This is crazy. Like they were literally like on the Twitter virtual Twitter suite celebrating. It was
Wow.
insane. I was just curious to hear your thoughts on the hate that people who are verified get on Twitter.
It's strange to me because so many of my friends, there's one of my friends, he's a public figure, Mikey, he's also a streamer. He does so much good for the community, you as well, and you're honest with people. And there are so many people who are blue check marks who don't deserve the hate based on what they do for a living. And it's purely because of what you do for a living that you have that mark. That way people know that, hey, you're verified. The whole point of a blue check mark is to show that this person is who they say they are and no one else. That's it. That's all it is. So you're mad at someone basically because you want what they have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the entirety of it. And that's the thing too, of where like I found myself wanting to have a blue check mark just so people don't recreate my page. That way they know, hey, I am, I'm Ariel, I'm Huggable Hipster, I am this person, I'm a YouTuber, and I do content, I do journalism, I do all these things, and Twitter doesn't give people with like not credited sources or whatever. Like you have to have your name in certain articles or something like that in order to be verified and to have like a certain amount of thing.
Yeah, the whole verification process makes no sense to me because I don't understand the criteria, right? Like for example, and I'll give him a shout out because I love this guy. You probably know him, Jake Baldino, huge YouTuber, right? Great guy. I've met him a bunch of times. Like he can't get verified. I'm like, this dude is famous. How is he? Like he's been trying for years and years to get verified. He can't do it. I'm like, what? How does that work? But I'm glad you bring it up because that's literally my motivation to why I wanted to get verified because somebody hacked my account and then started pretending to be me. So I was like, okay, I need to, so I was able to tell Twitter, hey, this happened to me. I also happen to write for these publications, PC Mag and Geek.com. Please verify me, and it happened, right? I'm not gonna get into it. It's just a weird thing. Like I noticed that you probably will be verified eventually once you have like stuff published in like a more recognized site. Because I noticed that, for example, comic book, because I love comic books, I'm into that world and stuff. Comic book writers are almost all verified. Comic book artists are almost never verified because they don't have a source. They don't have a link to a website, a written article.
I think
It's
it
so
makes
stupid.
sense.
Yeah, I'm verified. It makes no sense. But I'll tell you this about that verification though. That blue check mark, as people go, the blue check mark, to me, it's a freaking bullseye, because the instant I got that, I was like, wow. I used to get some hate because I'm a loud, crazy Dominican. I understand that. I could get ornery and stuff, but I'm just having fun with that. I never attack people or anything. You could check that all the time. I do not attack people, right? I may make some crazy jokes or whatever.
But you're just honest with people. That's it.
Yeah, I'm honest. Yeah, but obviously because I do troll sometimes, but it's evolved to a point where I literally just say the name of a brand and people go crazy. You've seen this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Literally, Xbox. Watch the comments. Absolute chaos.
It's so funny.
Like what?
This is why I think I should get verified because I experience the same. And when I post an article, it gets shared. If I didn't get any traction at all whatsoever, I could understand why Twitter would be a little more hesitante. But still, Twitter. I want that verification badge, okay?
Yeah, you'll get it. Yeah, you'll get it. As soon as you get to like a more established site or whatever, you're good to go.
You know what's interesting though? I also find about the verification badge is that you really find out who your friends are after that. Oh my God. There are so many of my friends who got the verification on Twitter, and a lot of people who I knew through them just up and left. And they acted like they didn't even know them. They acted like enemies at that point. I'm like, what is this? Were you only friends with them before they were famous because you just wanted to like see their Ryzen or whatever it was? I'm not even sure what the motivation is, but all of a sudden now that people have the check mark, it's like they're more likely to bounce because they think that, oh, well, you're too good for me.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because I have lost some friendships that I thought were real after that, or just, and I realized like, oh, so you weren't really my friend, it's like, you kind of wanted me to be at whatever level you were at. Now that I may have gotten higher, now you're mad. So it's very upsetting. That's a whole other conversation. I don't know if you want to get into, but something that I talk about a lot, particularly with other content creators that are people of color, right? And I realize I'm pale as hell, but I'm Dominican. I'm culturally Dominican, all that. But most of the people I associate with are either Hispanic or black, right? And it's so sad that the people who hate on me the most, I don't have any white haters. I don't. It's all my people, and it's very upsetting. It's like you would think like, hey, there's a Hispanic guy doing his thing. I should root for him, or Paris Lily, right? Black guy. It's like you should be rooting for him. No, he says all his haters are black.
Why though? That doesn't make sense.
It's like the white people aren't coming after us. It's not white people coming after us. It's our own people, and that's to me. That is the most upsetting thing of all, like it really genuinely breaks my heart that it's my own people. Like they have
really sad.
The crab. It's called the crabs in a bucket mentality. If you know what that means, like the crab that tries to get out of the bucket, there's going to be other crabs trying to bring them down. And I've lost friends because of that. It sucks. Even recently, off of this recent thing, I've had to be like, you know what? I see the character of this person. I don't want to be associated because I'm at that point in my life. I'm like, I'm doing good right now, career-wise. I just want to surround myself with good people, and it's kind of hard finding out that some people that you thought were cool, actually not, So that's part of it.
Yeah, that was a hard thing for me to realize too, because like even this past year, I lost friendships because I was too business-oriented, and they thought of business as corrupt and evil and everything else. Well, it has the potential to be, but it depends on the person.
Yeah.
So like it was strange because I lost so many what I thought were friends because of the work that I do, and because of the fact that like I spend so much time perfecting my craft. And that's what you always have to do in this business. You always have to be perfecting your craft.
Yeah, and I've done that too. Like I've had to here's the thing. I'm still the same person I always was, but I've refined things, right? I used to be a lot more crass back in the day, a lot crazier, but it's like if I'm trying to get ahead, I got to tone some of that stuff down while still being honest with myself. I'm not going out there to say things I don't believe, right? Because there are certain causes out there and stuff that even some of my fellow journalists are really for. I'm like, I'm not for this, so I'm just not going to speak about it, right? But I'm not going to say I am for these things if I'm not, so I'm not doing that. I'm not going to say anything I don't want, but I'm also trying to cut back on some things, right? Like even on Twitter all the time, it's like I used to engage with all these guys, right, all the time and clap back. I can't do that anymore. Not if I want to keep going ahead. And it looks bad, right? Like a guy with like 11,000 followers clapping down on some dude with 600. That looks really bad. I mean, so I can't be doing that.
And that's the thing too, of where like I'm just gonna be honest, it's tiring. It is very tiring to do, because a lot of people don't realize like not only are we writing, but we constantly have to be our own producers, our own marketers, our own hype people. And because like even though we do have friends who are hyping us, obviously, excuse me, it's not in the same way of where in the moment, if we really don't want to get a video done or a piece of content done or finish up an article, we really have to get ourselves like really motivated sometimes to push through it, because it gets difficult. And with doing so, like I don't know about you, but like with doing like especially this round 4 reviews all at once, it's exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You got to learn how to space it out, because you can burn yourself out. I've learned that in the hard way. Back when I first started, I tried to do everything, not just games. I try to do, review movies and TV shows. So basically, I got to a point where every single thing I did as a hobby, I wrote about, because I thought, hey, I can't waste this. Everything I experienced, I need to document. That got exhausting real fast, and I was like, and I got to a point like, let me just get away from some of the stuff, because if I don't have anything to fall back to, I'm not going to enjoy my life. So that's why I just do just games and tech, and it's been great. If I see a movie, I don't have to write about it. Just give my thoughts or whatever. It's fine, So there's always that separation that's necessary. But yeah, it can be tough. When I over here whining, we're just telling you the reality of things. But it is sad when you lose people that you think were your friends and all that, all because of that, you know. And also, just going back to your other point, when you're working on something, and I don't know if this happened to you, where you're like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get so much flack for this." It literally happened to me in the office like about a month ago. I'm writing some article about PlayStation, and I literally just stopped typing. I'm like, "Shit." I'm gonna get so much heat, you know.
Oh,
And my boss
yes.
like, "What's up, Tony?" And I'm like, "You know that PlayStation article I'm writing? Like, I just realized I'm gonna get it." And he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Just ignore him. Do what you do." I remember a few weeks ago, this got me some heat too because I have been Team Android forever, right? But working on this site, I started testing out more Apple products. I'm like, "Wow, this stuff is easy to use. I kind of like this." You know, and I was due to get a new phone, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get an iPhone, you know. So I got the 13 Pro, right?
Nice.
Not the Max because that's a little too big, you know. And I was talking to one of my colleagues. I'm showing her the phone and stuff. She was all happy for me. And then my deputy editor, his chair just swings around. Hey, why don't you write an article about that? I'm like, yeah, I should. And then when I wrote the article, oh no. And here's the thing, and this is terrifying. At Tom's Guide, my email is public. My email is public.
Same, yeah.
So when I wrote that, when I said I'm never, and it was honest, it was an honest headline. I said I just got an iPhone. I'm never going back to Android. Oh, the shit I got, it was crazy.
No.
You
Oh
know,
no.
so even in tech, I can't get away from it. It doesn't matter, you
I
know.
feel like the gaming community is more harsh though. Look at the Last of Us community. It says it
Okay,
in a nutshell. I love The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. There were some questionable
yeah.
things in the second one. I bawled like a fucking baby. But still, the community, I can't. Okay?
Yeah, no, the community, I've never gotten so much heat from a specific gaming community as I have from The Last of Us 2. I've literally, and this is me not even trying to antagonize them, right? Because it came out the same year as Ghost of Tsushima, right? I love Ghost of Tsushima. That was my favorite game of the year. Every single time I posted it, every single time I said, this is my game of the year, what about The Last of Us 2 is better? I'm not talking about The Last of Us 2, bruh. I'm talking about Ghost of Tsushima, you know? But I have been more critical than others of Last of Us 2. I did not, for lack of a better term, I didn't like half the game. I think you
Oh,
could figure
interesting.
out, yeah, I didn't like half the game. I didn't like playing as a certain character, you know?
Yeah, I can guess which one that was.
Yeah, like when I was when you had to play as her, you know, I was like, you know, for the intro, I'm like, oh, for like near the intro, okay, that's cool, you know, and then I was like, that's fine, whatever. Let's go back to Ellie. You know, I want to play as Ellie over here, right? And then when you got to Abby again, and you start like customizing her, we're like, oh no, I'm gonna be stuck with her now, aren't I?
You know
You
what
know?
is interesting? I like Abby more than Ellie. She has way more humanity, I think, than
Yeah,
Ellie does.
I just wanted to kill her by the end, but in the game, I don't care. I don't care. You know, and you can't. I'm like, oh no, you took that away. I'm like, I can't wait to be Ellie. I'm gonna kill Abby. I can't wait. You know?
You know what I thought was really interesting though is like seeing the and again spoiler warning. I say it out of habit now.
Yeah, you have for this one. You kind of can because
Yeah,
it's 2 years old. I
yeah.
realized that my dislike of the game made me break that rule, but whatever. that would deal with it. I wanted to play as Ellie. Every single instance of her and Joel in that game was amazing. I wanted more of that.
I wanted
You
more
know?
of that too because I'm very new to PlayStation. I actually it
Yeah.
was gifted to me last year for my birthday.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I was so happy because that gave me the opportunity to play Bloodborne, and I was so incredibly happy. So,
Bloodborne was so good.
I want a second one. I want a remaster. I want all the things of Bloodborne. But I digress. When I first played The Last of Us, Part 1 and 2 are both playthroughs on my channel, which is my most highly viewed. Can't think of why. And whenever I went into it, I have never felt more emotionally bruised than when I went in to play that game, because whenever I see an emotional scene, I don't hold back. Like I'll let the tears out. It's fine. People get to see people, content creators as humans. You're supposed to. And when The Last of Us 2 came, I knew what was going to happen because it was spoiled for me, and yet it hit me like a freight train anyway. And that's the thing, when you go as Abby and you see from her perspective, and then you go back and then you go back and forth, I feel like the reason why people are so irritated is because they took it way too seriously. And they took it as if it were face value. And I think that's the danger of social media as well, going back to what we were discussing about before. Because so many people, this is the only thing that they cling to and they tether to. Yeah. And it's sad, quite honestly, because we see so many of the Last of Us fanboys. We see so many Fallout fanboys. We see so many Cyberpunk antis, which I'll be talking about Cyberpunk in a minute. It pains me. It pains my heart to see so many people not have something other than gaming to balance their mind off of with. Because when you see someone get so upset over one game, I honestly just want to hug them and say, hey, whatever you're going through, it's going to be okay, but you can't get this upset over something that isn't real.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And it's a lot of people can't do that, you know? Don't get me wrong. There's franchises and things that I really love, right? For example, give you a perfect example, Star Trek, right? So I love Star Trek. Very inspirational show because I like those type of sci-fi shows where humans get their shit together in the future. That's also why I like Mass Effect. Mass Effect has a lot of crazy things going on, but generally speaking, before the Reaper show up, things are pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I like that type of stuff, right? And I hated Star Trek Discovery. I felt they completely butchered the nature of it, right? And I was very upset by this, right? Like really like intensely upset. And then, you know, voice in my head is like, Tony, let it go, bro. Let it go. This is nothing to be upset about. You got your old Star Trek that you can love. You don't need to be upset about this. And it was so freeing. I was like letting go of that negativity. So now when I see something, when I get that sense that I'm not going to like something, let it go. It's perfectly fine. Last of Us 2, I didn't care for it as much as other people, but I see the merits, and I could still objectively say it's Naughty Dog's best game. Objectively speaking, as a game journalist, I cannot say it isn't. It objectively is. I just didn't care for it in terms of its narrative and all that. But mechanically, level design, graphics, forget about it. Top level stuff, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people can't make that distinction out there. They can't separate their own feelings from, you know, objective truths and stuff. And it's funny because I didn't realize that myself until like what was it? I think it was 2008, right? That was the year that Iron Man and The Dark Knight came out, right? And people asked me, hey, which movie did you like better? And that was the first instance where I'm like, oh, okay. I liked Iron Man more, but The Dark Knight's a better movie. You know, and that's when, by the way, now after years, I'm like, no, I like Dark Knight better.
Dark Knight is better.
But even then, I recognized it was the better movie, you know? And a lot of people can't seem to do that, and they also can't separate their own attachment to things. And you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of weird, and I don't really know where this, like, I get it, like, sports fan. I don't watch sports. I don't know anything about sports, but it's that same kind of mentality where like it's their team. They even say it like, "Oh, we won," and I'm thinking like,
yeah, it's like what?
You didn't win. You were sitting on your ass watching TV, bro. Right? But it's that same. But I don't want to belittle that either because it's the same type of mentality. There's nothing wrong with feeling an attachment to having a community. That's great. But it's when it becomes toxic, that's when it becomes an issue. And I feel that back in the day, it wasn't like that. You would have the Star Wars community and the Star Trek community, and even though they kind of didn't like each other sometimes, it was cool, you know? And even with gaming, right? I remember when I was a kid, right, in the early 90s, I was like 12, 13 or whatever, right? There would be the Sega kids and the Nintendo kids, right? Hating on each other, right? You know what would happen at the end of the day? We go to each other's houses and play the games.
Yeah,
no matter what
exactly.
System.
Yeah.
You know, but now it's like if you have a PlayStation guy and you even present him with an Xbox, it's like he'll melt. You know, it's like get it away from me, like you're like it's covered in like the coronavirus or something. You know, it's like what is going on here? It makes no sense to me. You know, and don't get me wrong, I have my preferences. I'm more of a PlayStation guy, right? I just love PlayStation. But I'm not gonna hate. I think Xbox is great. I think Xbox Game Pass is the greatest thing out there. It needs games. I think it's bereft of games, but as a service, it's legit. It's great.
It's like the Netflix of gaming.
Yeah, it's dope. The Xbox. By the way, I've literally tweeted out Xbox Game Pass. Hate absolute you fucking Xbox. I'm like, I don't even own an Xbox. What are you talking about? You know. And again, I'm the first guy that says, "Yo,
I have
like,
to.
yeah, there you go.
I have to, because the thing
Love
is
it.
that originally I didn't buy an Xbox until, okay, now my camera's gonna give me. I shouldn't have touched anything. You know what?
You just messed the whole production up. What's wrong with you?"
I know, right? Is that the first console I ever owned was a GameCube, and then a Wii, and then Game Boy
Yeah.
Advance, Game Boy Color, and then I didn't even own an Xbox One until 2016 when I graduated from college.
Oh
Like,
wow.
I didn't own that at all until then, and then
Yeah.
what was last year was the first time I ever played on a PlayStation, and it was a whole new world. Like, honestly,
You fake gamer! How dare you?
I
You didn't
know,
start
right?
gaming.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
I was primarily a PC gamer though, so elite.
Yeah, right there you go. 2016. So you got into Xbox a year after me. I bought my first Xbox ever in 2015, Xbox One. This is literally when I started making money as a game journalist. Like I started getting like, I'm buying an Xbox. I'm a game journalist. I gotta have everything. You know, that was my mentality. Then I bought a beast ass PC and stuff. You know, but now I'm
Nice.
like, all the games are on PC. I don't need an Xbox anymore. Plus, like
This-
again, I'm New York, small apartment. I can't be fitting that big thing in here. I could barely fit the PS5. This giant freaking thing.
This is
you know?
a point that I made exactly to people, and people got so happy and irritated that someone finally said it, of where I said, if you're going to get any console, get a PlayStation 5 because the exclusives are absolutely amazing. If you're going to get an Xbox, don't get the console because everything is on PC anyway. So you can do that. Even with some PlayStation titles, they're already being ported over to PC, like Death Stranding, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn. They're already ported over, so you don't have to worry about that. But if anything, get a PC. It's worth your time. It's worth the money. It's worth the investment. If you're going to get a console that is just for dedicated gaming, hell yeah. But you don't need one unless you're getting a PlayStation 5. That's it.
Yeah, no. I've always said my personal combo is which I have, PC, PS5. You're good to go. You're gonna be able to play the majority of games. And obviously, if you like Nintendo, get a Switch as well. Then you're good. But you don't need an Xbox. And again, it's just funny. I'm saying this, and I'm being considered the Xbot. You know, it's funny. But again, people on the internet, they only see what they want to see because there's a contingent of Twitter that thinks I'm a Sony pony. There's another contingent that thinks I'm an Xbot. I'm like, can you guys please make up your minds? Which am I?
Yeah, people just think I'm a bitch, so they don't call me either of those things. I would rather be called an Xbox.
That's hilarious to me. By the way, earlier you said like that you sound like that you can come off kind of bitchy or whatever. I'm like, I don't know, you sound perfectly fine to me. But I'm like a New Yorker, and I like abrasive women, so I guess it's just fine for me, But I'm like, you're just being honest, you know what I'm saying? But we know how it is when women are like just more straightforward. Some guys don't like that very much, so yeah. So I've always like thought like, yo, like it really sucks like being a woman in this field, because I have a lot of female friends in this field, and the horror stories tell me like, damn man, that's messed up. No one has ever questioned me about my gaming credentials ever. Like I don't have to deal with that. Women all the time. When did you start gaming? How long have you been gaming for?
I blocked a lot of people. So right now I used to get a lot of dick pics. I used to get a lot of
there you go. I knew it. Yeah. Dirty motherfuckers. I'm sorry for my language.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I used to get a lot of that. Even to my work email, I got a lot of those pictures as well. I had to block a lot of emails. My account recently, I don't know if you saw, my Steam account was hacked. And
oh my God.
And I had to take care of that business. I was a part of a scam thing that happened, and I didn't know it was a scam thing. They photoshopped things very, very well, and I lost over $150 because of it.
Wow. All because of your gaming opinion, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there was even one person on Twitter who was telling me that, oh my God, the horror, you don't know how to play a game and you're a journalist, I would be scared. I'm like, and that was when I was playing Dark Souls 3. I was reviewing it, I was taking notes, and I was showing my stats of my character build, because normally I go for melee and nothing really much else, and Elden Ring was the first time I went for magic, but in Dark Souls I went for pure strength build, and that's one of the hardest ones to do, to have like a dex really high, your strength is really high, and someone was like, I could never. I'm like, what?
can't win with these guys. I remember because I'm a strength build myself. And obviously, you need to have a lot of health, right? It's like, look at that long health bar. It's like, dude, I still get killed in 3 hits. It doesn't matter how long the health bar is. But everybody always has to criticize all the time, you know. But again, it's just the reality of the situation. But it's kind of balanced out by the work you do, you know, and how proud of it, and the people that actually do support you.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so it in a weird way balances itself out because you know, and you know this as well as I do. The people who give you shit are very like they're minority. It's very low. You know, it's percentile is very very low. Most people actually support you and they love what you do. But those people that are toxic, they are really on it. You know, but it's just something we just unfortunately have to deal with.
And that's the thing too, of where, you know, I'm going to be moving out on my soon eventually, and it's one of the scary things about, like, my parents are very terrified because of what I do for a living, because I've had stalkers in the past. I still have a stalker who makes multiple accounts and tries to get in touch with me. So it's terrifying in a sense, but also it's like, and this isn't to gloat. I want to let people know right now, this really isn't to gloat. I'm just really making people aware of the fact, like, I get recognized from time to time outside when I'm out grocery shopping, because there are people who apparently watch my videos up here in upstate New York.
That's kind of cool, like, though, to be honest. That's kind of cool.
Like, I got recognized at the liquor store when I was buying vodka for my mom's birthday. I was like, what? Okay, I didn't know that you watched my videos. That's really cool. Like, even on, like, in the train station when I was, for my birthday a few years ago, I got recognized, and I was just a few years into what I was doing. So it's kind of weird at the same time, to be completely honest. Like, I already have anxiety. Do I need more of it? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that hasn't happened to me, you know, in public, but at E3 it has, and it's kind of cool. Like I remember this one fan specifically, he was so like nervous coming up to me, you know, and I'm, and I told him, like, hey, you want to take a picture? You want to take a picture? Let's take a picture, you know. But it's kind of fun to just know that people out there and you affect them in a good and positive way, you know. So seeing that kind of stuff, you know, it balances it all out in the end.
It really
does. And obviously all the connections we make with other like-minded folks, you know. You know, and I'm glad we're talking about this because there are some positives to it.
Oh, absolutely.
But man, when it gets rough, it gets rough, you know. But the good thing is, think about it, right? Most of our hate comes from the internet, and it's very easy to just unplug. It's very easy, you know. On the weekends, I make it like I've just got into a habit of don't go on Twitter. Like I may check my DMs or whatever, but don't go on the timeline. Leave it alone. You need that decompression time.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
And it's always interesting how whenever I go on a long trip or whatever, and I come back and I don't get a chance to go on Twitter, I'm like, ooh, I kind of feel good. You know, I remember this was a couple of years ago where this was when I was, you know, still freelancing, and my editor told me, like, hey, I'm going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. Can you please submit your articles before then? And I'm like, wait a minute. If he's on vacation for 2 weeks, that means I'm on vacation for 2 weeks. Cool. I'm gonna and I put my money where my mouth was. I always said I wouldn't be on Twitter if it wasn't work. I'm like, let's not go on Twitter for 2 weeks. And I did it. It was rough the first couple of days. Don't get me wrong, because it's addictive. It's a very addictive app, right? And it designed that way too. I got off Twitter and I felt great. And when I came back, you know, January 1st or whatever, I was just like, ugh, I felt disgusting. You know, it was like a smoker smoking for the first time. Like, ugh, why am I doing this? You know,
it is, you know? Yeah. And a lot of the most toxic people get their rocks off by doing that kind of stuff there, by just hating on other people. Like, perfect example. I was discussing, was it yesterday, about there's a big review that I'm going to be doing. I misspoke and I said, oh, my Cyberpunk massive review of Cyberpunk 2 years later. Someone was like, it's been only a year later, okay? I was like, first of all,
actually, it's been a year. You know,
calm your tits. And someone, like, it's strange because
it feels like 2 years because we've been living in the Rona times, you bastards.
Exactly.
You know, 2020 itself felt like 3 years.
It felt forever.
So I don't blame you.
It felt forever.
When somebody told me, it was like, you know, Cyberpunk came out during the pandemic, I was like, what? Because I thought it came out before. No, it came out during the pandemic. Insane.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the thing, too. We're like, I decided to do this review in particular because I wanted to see how far it's actually come from the mess that it was delivered out with to all of the replacements, all of the patches and everything. I got it for Xbox, PS4, and PC. They all work very differently on each platform.
Oh, okay.
very differently.
Ooh, okay.
And that's one thing in the review. This is why I wanted to do the review. And so many people are giving me shit for enjoying the game because when I first played it and I did a review of it, I only had 5 bugs on launch.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, you got lucky.
I got very lucky. And you know what? And the thing is that I realized so much of the game was crap for a lot of people because it just didn't work. It was taken off of the PlayStation storefront. That's horrifying for any developer to go through. But the crap that it went through for the people who developed the game, they didn't deserve any of that.
And it's with Cyberpunk. Weirdly enough, it's kind of like my modern version of Fallout 3. Again, I thought the game was fantastic. Those bugs were killing me. But the bugs were, for me at least, I played on PC, were not as pervasive as like they were on PS3 where they were crashing the game. I never had those kind of bugs, but I for the lack of a better term, it was like I call it death by 1,000 mosquitoes. The little things just kept building, like little bugs here and there building up, and I'm like, this is kind of throwing me off, And then there's just some design choices that I found very questionable. Like for example, okay, so you are like, okay, this 2020. I was going to say 2020. 2020. Why am I looking at the bottom of the screen to figure out where to go on the map? This is not GTA 3. This should be better. And I'm thinking like, okay, this game has holograms everywhere. Why not have holograms overlaid on the world to lead me to wherever I want to go, right? And that I'm like, that would have been a great thing to add. Then I do a race in the game. You know what they have? Holograms in the game world to telling you where to go. I'm like, it's already in the game. Why the fuck didn't you put it into? Oh, it's insane. Like little things like that just aggravated the hell out of me. And I'm like, you were there, guys. You were so close. So close. That game, if it was what it was supposed to be, instantly my game of the year. Not only game of the year, it would have rivaled Red Dead Redemption 2 as my game of the generation. It would have been up there because when the game works, it works so well. Like, you're driving around this crazy cyberpunk world. You've never seen a game like that. The verticality, it just goes up and up and up and up and never ends, right? And for me, what clicked, because again, I'm old school. I grew up eating 80s action movies, right? This is when the game clicked for me. When I'm driving around and I see these cyberpunks shooting the cops, I'm like, holy crap, this is RoboCop. This is awesome. I love this game, Or other moments where you're driving around like, oh, this is Akira.
Yep.
All these cyberpunk like influences all in this game. It is so, oh my god! Like here's the Cyberpunk is one of those games I love and I also hate at the same time. If you know what I mean, because I hate it because you guys were there. You were so close. You should have delayed the game. Not only should you have delayed the game another year and a half, maybe 2 years. You should not have put it on last gen consoles. We're done with that. That's why I'm so happy that Gotham Knight said no last gen. We're just doing strictly current gen. Thank you. The game doesn't look good, but I like what they're trying to do.
What they should have done was released it for PC and modern consoles first, and then say, fuck everybody. We're not going to have it for last gen until we have all of these bugs fixed.
Or just don't have it for last gen. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. Like, I know that's exclusionary or whatever. I am very much of the mindset, like, once a new generation comes out, cut off the last gen, we're done, And I realize that the player base is still big, and I understand. Here's the thing. With this specific situation, you have to make certain accommodations because of the pandemic and all that. I get that. But generally speaking, I don't like cross-gen. Stop that nonsense. Let's move on, And now we're at the point where PlayStation's about to sell 20 million. Xbox is reaching up there. We're done with the last console. We're finished. Let's move on. I want technology to keep improving.
Xbox just outsold PS5 for the first time in 3 years. And I saw that.
In Japan for 1 week, just, because the fanboys will give you crap about that too. But that's still an amazing achievement. In 8 years, this hasn't happened in Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
Japan sells literally 100 consoles a week for Xbox. I'm not even making up that number. Like, they sell nothing over there, because the Japanese still kind of, they're getting away from this finally, but they generally have this idea of Western games are shit. That literally what they said.
I don't know why.
But things obviously started because they were shit back in the day. A lot of Western games were not very well, done. They weren't as well done as Japanese games. But in the 2000s, that's when things shifted.
It started to take off more so, yeah.
Yeah, when I was growing up in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that's when I got into video games, right? I had nothing but Japanese games. they were the best. Capcom, Sega, all those guys, Konami, right? The best of the best, right? And then in like the mid 2000s, late 2000s, right? I looked at my shelf. I'm like, a lot of Western games here. Where are the Japanese games at? Japanese, they had a hard time making that transition from 2D to 3D.
Interesting.
Right? So the PS3, if you notice, the PS3 / Xbox 360 era, those Japanese games were not good, and some of them even committed the sin of trying to be like Western games.
Oh,
it didn't work.
That's true.
Japanese games got their act together when they were like, we're just gonna make Japanese games. Thank you. That's all we want. We want Japanese games. You know that. Now, I'm not going to say they're catered to Japanese, but that have those Japanese sensibilities. That's why we like those games, and that's why RPG specifically had a big resurgence in the PS4 generation. And I loved them. I'm like, oh, I'm buying Japanese games again, and they're great again. This is awesome. So we have these ebbs and flows of the industry and stuff. But I kind of feel blessed to have seen all of this. I wasn't around to like the Atari days or whatever. That was before my time. Even though I was alive during that time, but I didn't get into video games until I came to America in 1987 from Dominican Republic.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't know what a video game was at all. I had no idea.
Okay,
it wasn't until I saw, as in this, I'm trying to describe it the way I would as a little kid. I saw a long box with a little TV and buttons on it, and colorful characters and all this music. I'm like, what is that? And this was at my dad's friend's bodega, and he gave me some quarters. He's like, go try it out. I'm like, what do you mean try it? I'm like, it's a game. Play it. I'm like, play it. What are you talking about? Like, the concept didn't gel, right? So I popped the quarter. He showed me how to put the quarters in and all that, and then. Like, oh, this moves the character, this stick, this does stuff. Oh, this is cool. So yeah, my first game was Golden Axe, and that changed the trajectory of my whole life.
That's so good to see. Oh my gosh. You see, now we're going to get nostalgic with first games, because my very first game was Resident Evil 1 Remake, and I played it in 2000.
Remake? Ooh.
Yeah, and my dad, I remember to this day, my dad was talking with my mom in the kitchen, and he got me the GameCube for my 10th birthday, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool, what is this? And he was like, well, you play games on this, and you can experience other types of worlds and stuff. And it was so interesting because it's like my dad speaks both fluently in Hebrew, of course, for being in Israel, and English, and a little bit of Mandarin. So whenever it was like him trying to teach me all this kind of stuff, he was saying it with the accent, and I try not to mimic the accent because I don't want people to think I'm making fun of him. I'm not. He just sounds like Borat half the time, and I love it for him, okay?
Hilarious.
And
that's awesome.
And my mom was like, wait, why don't you get her a Barbie game? And he was like, I want to test the graphics on this. I want to see how it looks, And I played that game, and it was so amazing. Like, I wanted to this is gonna date me. I wanted to recreate how Jill Valentine's footsteps sounded in my own house, because it sounded so cool. And the fireplace, I was like, how do you put all this stuff in here and it makes it work? It looks like it's out here in the real world,
That's so awesome.
And the second game I ever played was Resident Evil 0, and then Matrix, Enter the Matrix for the GameCube.
Oh wow, bringing it back. Yeah. I remember that game.
And they have it for PC right now, but someone ported it over, and it's a complete mess. Absolute mess. Yeah. It's so bad. But it brought me back, and it made me realize that, all these hard parts that I thought were so difficult in 2003 are nothing now.
It's funny you mentioned that about difficulty, right? Because I remember in 2001, that's when the first Halo came out, right? On the original Xbox, right? And I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was just like, wait, you have to use 2 thumbsticks to move the character? This is stupid. I don't want to play like this. And I stayed away from like first person shooters for like almost 15 years because of these controllers. I'm like, no, not 15 years, like 10 years. Right? I was like, I don't like this. But around like the 2010s, right? The early 2010s, every game was a first person shooter, right? So I had to acclimate, right? So obviously from then I played a ton of first person shooters, got very, very good at them. So remember, I couldn't wrap my head around Halo, the first one, right? It was too difficult for me. I went back to play it, the Master Chief Collection. I'm like, whoa, this is simple. Like, where's my jump? Where's my strafe? Like, where's my zoom in? Where's my, like, I'm looking for all the modern stuff in this game, right? But Halo is still awesome. Like, whoa, like, the fluidity is still there, like even till this day. And again, I'm like I said before, I'm a huge sci-fi guy. I'm like, oh my god, it was so good. Like you're on a freaking it's called a McNiven ring, right? That's where it's inspired from. Larry Niven, he wrote this a book called Ringworld. That's what inspired the Halo.
I do have to say something really quickly. I've never played any of the Halo games before. I have the Master Chief Collection, but I have yet to review any of them, and a lot of people are getting on my ass about it. And one guy was like, how can you be an Xbox player and not have played Halo? And I was like, I'm late to the game.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I hate when people go, oh, you're just starting playing games now. You're a fake gamer. Right?
Know,
people
so
get
funny.
into it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely urge you to play the Halo games, specifically the first 3. They're so good.
That's what I hear.
Because again, I'm new to these games too. I played to completion. I said because I did play a little bit of the first Halo, the first 2 games, just a little bit back in the day. But I played to completion starting in 2018. So I'm still new to it as well. I thought the games were great. The first 3, at least. The fourth one, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are telling me too.
Yeah, but the first 3 are solid, and I still think I like the first one more, just because of just the way it made me feel. Then it was like, whoa.
That's always
like,
the case.
When you land, when you land on that planet when you land on the Halo, and you and you see the world like vertically go up instead of like rolling out like a horizon, like that's awesome.
That's really cool.
And
I do have to say, there is a subject that we're going to talk about next that I feel like we have to brace for impact, because so many people are discussing this, and I feel like, especially like with, when 2 content creators talk about stuff, that's one thing, but when journalists talk about things, it gets to a whole nother level right now. Silent Hill.
Oh boy.
All of those rumors that we're hearing. Okay, my friend who used to be a leaker, not a leaker anymore, Dusk Golem, aka Aesthetic Gamer. He does a lot of leaks. I don't know if you know him on Twitter and everything like that.
I know him,
yeah. Yeah, and I would consider him one of the good ones. There are a lot of terrible leakers out there who are pretty nasty shitheads, but he's really a genuine person. But there have been so many leaks that are happening right now about the Blobber team, unfortunately, doing a remake of the game Silent Hill for the first 2 games. Konami getting on board, getting licensing, working with Blobber team. Or Bloober Team. Yeah, or
Bloober team. Yeah. Don't worry, I've messed up. I called them Blooper Team. People got really mad. Like, they're not bloopers. Like, they thought I was making fun of like bloopers and stuff, but it's Bloober Team. It's very weird thing. But I'm glad we're talking about this specifically, because I just want more information, because as I've confessed, never played any of these games. I was always a Resident Evil guy.
I saw. Do I have to back away right now?
Because I'm not really. Yeah, it was just fight. I'll beat
Pick
you
your
up.
fighter.
Yeah, right. We're like Mortal Kombat characters, like. But yeah, so it's not that. By the way, I love how Twitter twists stuff. Like, oh yeah, I never cared for this game. Like, I never said I don't care for them. I said I never played them. Like, I literally just said I didn't play them. No opinion. I said I never played them. But it's like, oh yeah, I don't like those type of games either. I'm like, I didn't say I don't like those type of games. I just said I haven't played them. People love twists and stuff. But I was just like, I was always like, I like Resident Evil, and I knew Silent Hill was a little bit more psychological horror. I'm like, I kind of want guns. I want to shoot stuff, But I always kind of saw it from the periphery, right? But now, we've been hearing these rumors. And I blame Hideo Kojima for this.
Yeah, honestly.
Right? Because, when he released PT, which was amazing. Right?
I never got to play it.
Horrifying. It was me and a group of friends. We beat this game, right? Because there was there's no one way to beat the game. So we were like looking up online on our phones, like figure out how to beat the game.
That is so cool.
But think about it. I'm in a room with 7 other people, terrified, right? Because the game is scary, But after that, people wanted Silent Hill again. They wanted Silent Hill again. So you've heard these rumors for years. A lot of it, actually not all of it has been unsubstantiated, especially that nonsense with Abandon and Hassan Karaman. I'm not going to get into that. That dude is such a shyster,
You see,
he used... Yeah.
That's what got me irritated, because I was like, I covered this in my Casual Nerd episode. Part of me feels bad that he got dragged into this, but part of me was like, you knew what he was doing. Like, he was pandering to that audience.
Yeah, he was. And that goes back to what we're talking about. Like, again, I don't condone what happened with him. I don't. but I don't feel bad because he asked for it. He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing, so I can't feel sorry for that. But so we had the Kojima thing, bringing up the game, right? Then we had the whole abandoned nonsense. So now that this stuff is happening, it makes me. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. I've heard this so many times, I don't believe it anymore. But at the same time, like you said, Bloober Team and Konami, that's not a rumor. That's fact. Both companies have come out to say we are working or we're collaborating with something. And thankfully, Konami looks like they're actually getting back into game development again. After Metal Gear Solid 5, they kind of just dropped off, you know. I mean, I know they released some collections and stuff, but I think that was just them kind of testing the waters a little bit.
Well, the thing is like when I heard about this news, I saw that a Aesthetic Gamer posted screenshots, which I used in my video, and people were warning me, "Oh, Konami's gonna come for you because you have those screenshots." It's like, haven't come for me yet, so I think I'll be fine. Of where
chill out,
people were saying that, oh shit, Konami took down the screenshots that Aesthetic Gamer had, and he had his account banned for a few days. So there is a little bit of a legitimacy, I think, to that, of where the copyright claimants, since it is Konami, there could be something behind it. But a lot of the screenshots, while they look cool, I feel like it just looks so cheesy. And it's like, this reminds me of Blair Witch, which was a good game, but it was kind of cheesy. It also reminds me of The Medium, which was problematic, but also really amazing in itself. I just hate the way that they pander to some mental health issues that could be an entirely different topic on its own. But it was fascinating to me because when I'm seeing all these rumors come out, it's like, why can't they let this game be, left to rest in peace? Some games just shouldn't be remade. And I feel like that with Resident Evil 3. Yeah. I feel like that with Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 should never have had the director's cut, ever. Now that I know more about it and more about the situation that it was put under, it should have just been left to rest in peace, and that was it.
Yeah, no, there's some games like, there's a recent one that's coming out, Dead Space. I don't feel that should be remade because I felt the first Dead Space was, I don't say this about a lot of games. That game is perfect. You do not need to mess with it. It's perfection. Same thing with Resident Evil 4. Leave it alone. That game is perfect as is. Resident Evil 2, I can understand it getting a remake. Resident Evil 3, it needed a remake too, although they didn't do it right. They didn't. That's my problem with it. I wasn't against the remake. I was just against the way they did it. I don't think it was right. But Resident Evil 2,
that was perfect. Remake, that was so good.
But to me, Resident Evil 4 is so perfectly balanced. Like, all you need is just clean up the graphics. You don't need to do anything else. I know some people don't like the fact that you can't move and shoot at the same time, but it's like, but the game's designed around that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what they're going to do with it.
See, one thing that I have an issue with, is, I might get hate for this, but I hate how much hype Resident Evil 4 gets. Is not just, I think, because part of me is like, that was part of my childhood. I played that game on the Wii. Absolutely fantastic. Like, it was such a wonderful experience seeing how annoying Ashley was, but also seeing Leon and seeing, how the character, it was bringing Resident Evil more into the modern day while still keeping it Resident Evil. But there are just some aspects of it that are just trite and boring. And I'm just like, but now that I'm older and not a kid anymore and seeing this from more of like, I don't know, professional standpoint, it's like, this game didn't have the merit, now to go forward for a remake. It just should be left like that. That's it.
Well, you know what it is though, because Resident Evil 2 and 3 were big hits, so they obviously have to do 4 because money. So to me, it's silly. But I could do a whole talk about Resident Evil 4, how important that game was for the industry. It's like, for third-person shooters, they all get their flow from that game, because before that game, we didn't know where to place the camera behind a character exactly. But with that one, it's like, hey, over the shoulder, and just their upper torso, and every game uses that now because it just feels more natural. It's like, that's where the gun is, so that's where the camera would be. And then it's funny because now obviously we don't do quick time events, but that game had a ton of them. I agree with you. The story is not perfect, but the thing is, those games were always meant to be cheesy B horror movies anyway, so it kind of worked. And I also feel that game specifically married perfectly like the horror and the action, because After that, shit went downhill real
Oh,
fast
don't
with
even.
Resident Evil 5 and especially 6.
You thought
6 was so.
5 was bad? I liked 5.
No, here's the thing. I liked 5, but I could see it going off
That's
the
true,
rails, right?
yeah.
But 6,
Oh,
that was one of the game
Bane
reviews I wrote in an hour.
same.
I hate because I'm more focused when I'm mad, right? I wrote that in an hour, the most scathing review I've ever written. You know, I don't think that review's up right now, but I went in on that game. That game and Metal Gear Revengeance, the one with Raiden, hated it. I went in, but at least with Raiden, I could at least say this game had good gameplay. I could at least say that. There was no redeeming value with Resident Evil 6. The graphics were bad, the acting was bad, everything was bad. Everything.
One thing that
know?
I've always said about
but
Resident Evil 6 was that it would have done
yeah,
better if the stories were not broken up into segments. They should have just
yeah,
had the story as one cohesive thing, and it would have been so much better. Because if you're going in and you're like, and I feel like this is where multiplayer came in, and I hate that they brought multiplayer into a Resident Evil game. They should have just
yeah.
no, not with that. I feel like Resident Evil Revelations 1 though was worse than Resident Evil 6, to be quite honest. All honesty.
Yeah, I haven't played Resident Evil Revelation 1, but I did play Revelations 2. That game is absolutely terrible. That is such a and here's the thing. I hear that Revelations 1 is the good game. So get ready for the second one.
Oh my
you know
god.
how bad that
2,
is.
a lot of people were telling me that was better. I've played 2. 2 was only redeemable because the storyline in the beginning in the first chapter was really good. That's it. That was the only
Yep.
redeeming quality about it.
Yeah, I didn't like the game. But yeah, so anyway, Silent Hill. I don't have too much to say about it just because of the fact that I'm not well versed on the franchise. But I'm tired of the rumors. I want something to be concrete already, just to stop this nonsense. But that's all. I forgot to bring this up before. Like, you know how people, again, they tie their self-worth to games or whatever, right? So I love it when people, cause, you know, the people who know me, like, if I say a game they don't like, you know, if I say, oh, a game you like sucks or whatever, they'll be like, oh yeah, well, Metal Gear Solid 3 sucks. That's my favorite game of all time. I'm like, okay, I don't care. Whatever. You know, it's an opinion. I don't give a shit. You know, I didn't make that game. Blame Hideo Kojima. You know?
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, a part of me is like, you know, will always have a bias for Resident Evil 1 because it's the first game I ever played. But I get how cringy it is. That's the thing. I get the voice acting is like, oh, a minute later, you would have been a Jill Sandwich. Like, no. Like, we all can admit that is pretty effing cringy, to be quite honest.
The thing is, because I played the first Resident Evil when it first came out, right?
Nice.
1996. I was 16. We all knew it was corny as hell, but it was awesome. The game was great because we never seen a game like that before. You know, it was amazing. But yeah, we knew it was corny as shit. You know, but the corniness was fun. You know, we like that. Oh, Jill Sandwich. You know, is that blood? Is that Jill's blood? Like, it's hilarious.
Do you remember in the hallway in the original one where he comes out and he's just like, well, this hallway is dangerous?
Yeah, it's hilarious. You know,
so
but at the same time, it has some genuinely horrifying. Those dogs when they bust through the window, I shit myself. That was horrifying.
That was so bad. Oh my god, that was the first.
That game was so good.
That was the first time I ever told my dad. I was like, "Can you take this from me because I feel actually scared?" And then a week later, I came back to him. I was like, "Actually, give it back. I want to try again."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, me and my buddies were playing like every day after school. Like, yo, Resident Evil, let's go. You know, and we were because like you know like back then we would like play for like 30 minutes and then hand off the controller to somebody else. And if you play long, we just punch each other and take the controller. You
I
know?
love that so much.
Those are good times.
Yeah, you see, and that's a cool thing about gaming back in like the 90s and early 2000s that I feel like I'm so incredibly happy that I got to experience because, you know, you could hand off the controller to someone else. You could just play on your own. And for me, like, I was always playing, you know, emo girl problems. I was always playing by myself with the controller and everything like that. And anytime when I would have like a doctor's appointment, because I was always sick when I was a kid, I always used gaming as a major distraction for everything. So I would be playing Zelda, The Wind Waker, GameCube. First Zelda I ever tried. Absolutely incredible game, you know? But, you know, the thing is that so many people don't understand how, like, the fixed camera angles, the music, all of it, like, not being able to save in time for a boss battle, like, all of those things, a lot of people don't have to worry about now because the game saves automatically now, which that was unheard of
Yeah.
back in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, you had memory cards. If you lost your memory card, you're kind of screwed. You lost your game. And now we got to a point where like the new PlayStation Plus, some of the old games on it, like they have like manual saves and auto saves and rewind. I'm like, imagine if we had that back in the day. That'd be crazy.
That would be amazing. I would I remember my mom would be like saying, "Ariel, we're about to go grocery shopping. Do you want to come with us?" Like, let me save my game first. I have to trek all the way back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was real back then. Now it's like, there was a save point like 2 seconds ago, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, these kids have it too good.
Oh my God, yeah. It's shocking though. I still get mistaken for a kid. I still get told, "Oh, you look like you're 14." It's like, thanks. I look like an embryo. It's funny.
I guess that's a good thing to have. I guess it's kind of like me. I don't look my age. I'm Dominican, and if I were to actually shave, I would look like every time I shave, I look 10 years younger. It's amazing. Even my mom, she's 76. She looks like she's 55. So that's a good thing to have. I'm at work, like all the other people think I'm like in my 30s and stuff. Like no, I'm actually older than you, bro. But it doesn't look. By the way, I got a funny story, Rookie. You know Gene Park, right? From Washington Post. Awesome. Great guy. We talk all the time, right? So I met him for the first time in real life, right? In 2020, right before the Rona happened, all that nonsense, right? We were at the New York Video Game Critics Circle Awards, nice. Right? Which I'm actually now a member of, which is pretty cool, So I met him, and I had already kind of conversed with him or whatever on Twitter and stuff, so we knew each other. Met him for the first time, and I told him how cool it was to meet an older gentleman that's doing gaming and stuff, right? And how it makes me want to keep doing what I do because I could be like him. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's great, right?" And then maybe a month or so after that, right, still before the Rona hit, he was posting pictures of himself from E3 2002, right? 2002, and he was like, "Oh, this is me back when I was 21 years old," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
wait, I was 22." You were 21. You what? And then I told him this, and he's like, wait, you're older than me, you bastard! I'm gonna get you for that. And we joked around because typically when you see like Asian people with like white hair, they're kind of older. He just got white hair unusually young and stuff. So he admitted that. But I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm gonna get you for that. I'm like, damn, because I have my Dominican genes looking all young and
that stuff. That is so cool. Oh my God, you see, because that guy is such an inspiration to me. Like whenever I saw, whenever I saw his stuff in the Washington Post, I was like, wait, this dude is a legend. And then I got to know him, and then I kind of got excited that we were both talking, and I could actually have a real intellectual conversation with someone over Twitter, and that's how I got to know you through your account, and that's how I got to know other tech reviewers as well. And I'm just like, this is a group of people that I have been waiting to meet my entire life,
That's awesome. Yeah, Gene specifically says that he likes to talk with people who may not be as big as he, just so he could get the conversation. And he said some of these people keep it more real than my colleagues, But yeah, he's a great guy. And like you said, the whole age thing aside, obviously he's younger than me. He is an inspiration to me because again, he's at the Washington Post doing his thing, But even then, he still has to struggle too because he says he's actually technically a sports writer because they don't have a gaming division there.
They don't? I thought they did from what he
No,
posts.
They don't. He is actually technically a sports writer. They lump games with sports because a lot of the big media, they think that gaming is not really a thing, even though gaming is literally the biggest thing on earth.
Multi-billion-dollar corporation.
It makes more money than Hollywood. It's insane. So him and I, we talk about it publicly. It's all out there about how big sites don't understand what gaming's about, and it's kind of sad that I forgot what site it was. I think it was the Time, either New York Times or Time Magazine. One of these. So they posted a review of Elden Ring, right? And I read it after the fact, but what shocked me was the footage they showed. It was literally the guy was playing a game and holding a phone up.
Oh my God, I saw that. I remember seeing that.
And the screenshots were they're snapping pictures of the game with their phone, and I'm like, you realize I don't have a control near me, but there's a share button on it, and if you press it and you log on, you could record footage. So it just shows you, and I'm not trying to, crap on the big guys because, people do that to me, but it's like, guys, if you want to be respected here, there's a lot of gaming journalists that are super talented you can hire and elevate you, right? Like for example, CNN, they made a new gaming division and they hired my friend Mike Andronico, who used to be a senior editor at Tom's Guide, who helped me out. He gave me a bunch of freelancing stuff. CNN is doing it right. They have legit gaming journalists there who are very experienced. So I'm like, I want more places to see this because, and this could be for a whole other episode, like how gaming is still not really respected among like big institutions because a lot of them, I'm sorry to say this, are just older and didn't grow up with gaming. Obviously, this problem is going to remedy itself in like 20 years when it's people like us running these places, right? Who grew up with gaming, who have a passion for it. But I would just hope that some of them would like be like, okay, you know what? We should actually hire people that are actually been doing this for a long time, you know? And I think they'll get their act together, but it's just kind of a little frustrating where it's like, I'm over here, you're over here trying to legitimize this stuff, and then the big places don't acknowledge it, and then obviously we tying it all back up, we also have to deal with these clowns that are just trolling and making all gamers look bad, you know. So it's like it's a lot to deal with.
And the thing too, it's like, and to bring it to more of like even more of a real point, I want to say, like, there was something of where like I was being genuinely open with people, something you probably shouldn't do on Twitter, but
yeah, got to be careful.
And I was like, well, got another rejection email from a company about a job position. And this was to be like a QA tester, for a game company. And the thing is that it's so difficult to get your foot into the door in this industry. And people think content creators, like yourself, like me, that we already have it made. And that's not the case. Actually, you're always working. You're always striving to do better. And the fact of the matter is like, just so everybody who's watching this is clear, I get paid $30 a month for my reviews that I do on Patreon. That's it. Like, that's what the average a lot of the time is. Like, sometimes it's 3 cents per word for a lot of game companies, and that's on the lower end. There was a company that I applied to that said, we'll pay you $15 per article. No. How about no? And this is a company, and this is actually a company that I'm just going to type it in. I'm not going to say it because the fact of the matter is like, this is a bunch of bro culture that when
I'll just say this: and this was public. IGN was offering $20 per article to some people, so these prices are not unheard of. But the thing is, I'm actually glad that happened because some people kind of woke up, was like, oh, they're not making any money. No, we're not, like, and then I kind of realized in my position, I was like, oh, wow, I was lucky where I was because, not to disclose, but PC Mag and Geek.com, they paid me not substantially more, but more, per article. And that was just for news. For features, it would be a little bit more. So again, it's just kind of bugs me how people think that not only about writers per se, but even content creators. Like they think, oh, you're on Twitch, you must be making bank. No. Even Twitch streamers aren't like that. I get about $100 every season off of Twitch, and then they advertisers. Where we get that money from? From our fans who give us bits. Thank you guys so much for that. But the thing is, since we're not really making bank like that, you know what I do with that money? I buy stuff for the fans. Keep it going. Yeah, for real. By the way, you could have both because I have that. I get to create cool stuff and I get paid vacations.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, you could get that too. I'm just saying it's not impossible because again, even though I am in tech, it's still a creative thing. So I get to create things like that. I am generally proud of the work I produce. But again, going back to that whole trying to up yourself thing, that's also part of the reason even though I still am writing about games, not a tech game journalist anymore, but part of the reason I kind of left was also because I felt I couldn't get better as a game journalist. Like I kind of reached the pinnacle. Like I was not producing bad work, but I felt I was phoning it in. I was like, I know I got this. I'm like, it's time to up my game now as a writer, and I feel I have become right. Because again, I want that drive to never go away, but obviously now my tech writing is making my games writing better, just because I have to be more efficient with my words and I'm more precise with my words. So it all feeds into each other. And I think that's a good kind of way to end this segment. I love the fact we went on for like 2
I know, right?
It's amazing, you know. But yeah, no, like if you really want something, just keep at it. Don't stop, and you will get haters. That's just gonna happen because. But at the same time, you know, and this is an appropriate analogy for a video game podcast, right? Is you know when you're in a playing game, you know you're going the right way when there's a bunch of enemies along the path, right? That's how life is. You know, if you're there's a bunch of obstacles in your way, a bunch of haters in your way, that means you're doing something right. Keep it going. Don't let it affect you. And that's all I can say about that.
That's very true because there have been a lot of people trying to get underneath my skin this past week. I all see it as people just giving me free publicity. Thank you, by the way, for everyone who hates me. I love you.
You know, and yeah, exactly. You know, and also don't get upset over whoever you may lose along the way because you're gonna gain other people. That's just how it is. You know, think about it. You said you lost some friends or whatever this week. So did I. We found each other, so it all works out.
Exactly.
You know?
And the thing is that you have been doing this for 10 years, a little over 10 years right now.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact is like you're basically like my mentor right now in this space, you know, and I say that with you know, every bit of respect because anytime that I see someone who's been doing something more so than I have, I see it as an opportunity to learn every single day.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like so many content creators waste out on because they think that they know everything, especially in the YouTube space. And it's unfortunate because it's like just because you have a large following doesn't mean that you're there yet. And you always have to keep learning and progressing and have those mentors to teach you that it's not all, you don't have to have all smoke and mirrors. It has to be something legitimate. That's what audiences want.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want. You know, and I'm going to tell you this right now. This podcast right here, even though it wasn't like as like focused and structured, I'm going to tell you it's going to be one of your bigger ones just because of the fact that the conversation was so honest. You know, that's what people want at the end of the day, you know? And I think we have provided people with some insight into what we do, and hopefully it could be a little bit more sympathetic. You know, don't be so quick to hate on, you know, your fellow gaming journalists. We're just trying to survive too. We're trying to provide you with some good content and elevate ourselves, you know? So, yeah, just calm it down a little bit, guys.
Yeah, exactly. If there's one takeaway that you guys can get from anything in this podcast is be more empathetic, be kinder to people that you meet who review games, and also understand that still, you don't get this shit for free a lot of the time.
Exactly.
So
yes, always conditional. Always conditional.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like hell. I mean, the first time that I actually like I don't know what your moment was, but the moment that felt like I was actually like on the way to making it was when Casey Neistat followed me on Twitter. I was like, holy shit.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to have more moments like that because I like, for example, this is gonna sound messed up. Like I every time I get asked like, what's your favorite article? I'm like, I don't know. Because the thing is, like, once I write something, I'm already on to the next thing. I've forgotten it. You know how many times I've had people come up to me and be like, oh, Tony, I read your review of this. I thought it was amazing. And I tell them, oh, thank you. I'm glad you read it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm thinking, I don't remember writing that. I don't, you know, because I'm on to the next thing, you know. But then, you know, when I do read, I'm like, oh, that was actually pretty good, you know. And also, that's another thing. Don't be so hard on yourself, you know. You're going to improve as a writer exponentially the more and more you do it. You know, I remember when I used to, and I don't do this as often as I should, but whenever I would read some of my older stuff, I'd be like,
yeah, same.
Horrible. But that's a good thing. That lets you know you've improved, right? And then when I read some of my current stuff that I forget about that I've written, you know, like, for example, like, you know how Google recommends articles? This is always a fun feeling. I hope you get this too. Google recommends an article for me to read. I click on it. I'm reading like, oh, I wrote this.
I love that.
Like, this is pretty good. You know, so you'll get there too. It's a fun feeling. Then you go, oh yeah, I have improved. This is cool.
That feeling came with YouTube videos for me because my dad was watching YouTube in the living room and one of my videos came onto his recommended for my review of Ghostwire Tokyo, and I was
so awesome.
Thrilled. And he was like, hey, wait, you're here, but you're over there. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, so cool. There you go. That's awesome.
I love that. And you know what? It's actually pretty interesting too because it's like people, and I don't know if you want to talk about this briefly, but they kind of like pigeonhole content creators. They think that, oh, well, if you're a YouTuber, you can't be a journalist. But if you're like someone on Snapchat, you can't be a YouTuber. But if you're a Twitch streamer, you can't also be a YouTuber. What is this?
Yeah, no, yeah, people tend to do that. But because again, like, because you are both. And I find that very fascinating. because that's also what you need to do. You kind of need to be in multiple worlds now. Although again, because I'm coming at it from more of a journalistic thing, it is still a trip for me because I remember when I first started, whenever I would go to events and stuff, big and small, I would always be asked, "What publication do you write for?" In recent years, you know what I get asked? What game do you stream?
Interesting.
And it's a bug out. I'm like, wait, what? I don't stream games. What are you talking about? But that's how things have kind of shifted. But it doesn't mean that just because you're like a Twitch streamer doesn't mean you can't also be a journalist. Although, again, in my head, I'm like, you still need to write something to be a journalist. But the same, you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Yeah, but like, because like if you write your own stuff and then you read it on air or whatever, how is that any different than what I do, right? So it's an adjustment that a lot of people, including myself, need to make, But I don't think there needs to be these walls per se. It doesn't make any sense, especially where like in this world with all technology is all interconnected now. Like, why does it need to be like that? It doesn't. It's just these kind of barriers that people just make.
Exactly, and that's the thing too, of where like I wouldn't have made it as far as I did if I weren't. I do have to say, to my credit, as honest as I am, because there's so many people who like cover up their honesty with like half-baked kindness that's really kind of pessimistic and not endearing at all whatsoever, if that makes sense. So for me at least, I love the fact that I can be my whole true self, and people get offended, but I know that's when I'm doing something correctly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
But you guys, thank you so much for joining us. For you guys who have listened, thank you so much for tuning in. Last bit of housekeeping that I want to let you guys know about. I am currently in the process of playing Ghost of Tsushima for the last review on this round. I'm really enjoying the game so far. It's really very, very good. But one thing I want to say is that I'm only covering 2 games coming up next, which will be Sifu and Fallout New Vegas, which so many people have been asking me to play, and I'm finally going to dive back into it. So far, but it's okay. I've expected that fully with myself in Fallout. But you guys, thank you so much for joining us for the podcast. Thank you so much, Tony, for just stopping by. Seriously, you've been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, no, you've been great, Ariel. Thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. I just got to chill tonight. That's all I consider. It's not even a podcast. I'm just chilling, having a conversation. It's fantastic. Shout out to your audience for checking us out. You guys are awesome. And if you want to check me out, I'm over on Twitter at Romudeth, ROMUDETH. In my bio, you'll see links to all the places I work for. Tom's Guide, that's my home. I'm a computer writing there. Cover laptops, computers, tablets, all that nice stuff. And I'm also the host of the Third Down Show podcast. We're on every Thursday and Sunday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Thursday is a show where we cover all the gaming news that happened that week. And Sunday is when we answer fan questions. And we are about to reach episode 400 of both of those shows this on September, first week of September. So we're going to do something special for that. And stay tuned.
That's amazing. That's really incredible. Well, thank you so much for coming by, and I will see you I was about to say see you in the next one to stay casually nerdy. But you guys, if you don't like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell down below, because I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I will see you all in the next one. Stay casually nerdy, you guys. Bye.
Peace.